Welcome to Pursuit of Purpose, where we share our journeys of how God turned pain into purpose. I am your host, author, and kingdom writing coach, Indiana Tuggle. And today we are going to have one of those sit down with your auntie and your grandma conversations, because at some point in life there will come a time on the road to purpose when reality in life will cause you to pause. And today we are living in And it was a time where my faith was wavering and I was questioning God's purpose. So today I want to talk to you about facing it through unemployment. And unemployment is one of those situations that a lot of people are finding themselves in, whether it is temporary or whether it is permanent. And it can be a very frustrating time to be wondering how you're going to take care of yourself, how you're going to take care of your family, how you are going to make ends meet, worrying about collectors calling you each and every day. The silver lining in all of this is that we are all joined by the same tragedies. You know, most of us are being affected by the COVID-19 virus in one way or the other. You know, for some of us, we're finding ourselves working from home for the very first time. Me personally, myself, I'm still working. I'm working from home. However, my company has decided to cut hours, so whereas I was, working full time, I'm now having to take a pay cut of 20% of my salary. So you can get into this pit of wondering, when is it going to end, and when we are inundated with so much information on the news, so much opinions from various people, sometimes we have to take it upon ourselves and do what I like to call protect our peace, because in the midst of the storm, you don't need everybody else's issues, everybody else's opinion weighing in. And sometimes that can even drown out not only your own voice, but it can drown out the voice of God, And as I went through my storm, back then when I became unemployed, and it's very recent, it's just 2020, so my unemployment was in 2015, and I was unemployed for 15 months. That's a year and 3 months, and having worked since I was 16 years old, I didn't know what it felt like to not work, and to not have any income coming in, and to not be able to come and go as I please and do for myself. So today I'm just going to share with you a couple of lessons that I learned about keeping the faith in the midst of the storm. And one of those lessons is that faith does not always know where it is being led, but it loves, trusts, and knows he who is leading. And the key word in there is knowing, because sometimes when the storm is raging, it can really appear that God is silent. And even though we know that in his word it says, be still and know that I am God, when the storm is raging against you and you don't know which way to turn, you don't know what to do, we can get very easily turn and lash out at God, and ask, where are you? And I've said that before, in the midst of my storm. I'm like, okay, God, where are you? And the enemy will talk to you too. The enemy will tell you, hey, where is your God? But at the moment when I actually lashed out and was like, okay, God, where are you at? Because I'm out here looking crazy, and I'm standing on your word saying, thus says the Lord, but ain't nothing moving over here. Where are you? And God led me to Numbers 9 verses 22 through 23. And Numbers 9 really chronicles it continues the journey of the children of Israel when they came out of captivity. And I'm just going to read it to you. Numbers 9 verses 22 through 23 says, whether it was 2 days, a month, or a year that the cloud remained above the tabernacle, the children of Israel would remain encamped and not journey. But when it was taken up, they would journey. At the command of the Lord, they remained encamped, and at the command of the Lord, they journeyed. They kept the charge of the Lord at the command of the Lord by the hand of Moses. And really, what God showed me in those verses was that he wasn't silent at all. That even his silence means something. And his silence meant that the cloud is above the tabernacle. So therefore, he wanted me to remain encamped, just like he's telling us right now. He's not silent. He sees what's going on with us. He sees the suffering. He sees the job loss. He sees the people that are being affected by this virus and people becoming ill and some even losing their lives. He sees it all. However, he is telling you to pause for a moment. Just pause. And during encampment, you are to spend time with him, sup with him, and bask in his presence. We are not to be concerned about the journey or when it will come. When the appointed time comes for you to move, you will know. So stop trying to journey when the Lord has said rest. Confusion is not of God. Confusion is a result of trying to move when God has commanded rest. While you are resting, keep your eyes on God and watch his glory manifest. While I was worried about the bills, God had already paved the way. In my book Finding Faith, I go through the month by month everything that transpired as I was still out searching for a job, and it doesn't mean that you're not supposed to do anything, but it does mean that you're supposed to rest in God. In each month, as I was writing this book, I was just in tears, because sometimes when God is working things out for you, we're so busy focusing on the storm that we forget that we're weathering the storm. We forget that today is a new day and we made it through, and yesterday is gone. We forget that one more day we made it and the lights didn't cut off. We didn't get cut off. We forget that we made it another day and nobody knocked on our door to repossess anything. We forget that we made it another day and we had a full meal in front of us on the table. We forget that we made it another day and we still have our loved ones sitting before us. They may be getting on our nerves right now, but they're still there with us. We forget those things because we're so focused on, I don't have a job. What am I going to do about this? And I can't go here and I can't go there. But if we would just rest and keep our eyes on God, we will uncover that he's holding our hand right now. You know, I love to go into people's houses and see the serenity prayer, you know, well, not the serenity prayer, the footprints prayer, you know, where the person is walking in the sand and they're complaining and asking, God, where are you? And then the last line says, it was during those times that I carried you. We forget that God is carrying us right now, you know, and we can't allow the current situation to make us ever forget that God is always, always with us. You know, the word says that there is nowhere we can go that we can be, that God will not be with us. Even if we go to the depths of the earth, if we make our bed in hell, even there, God will be with us. You know, so we have to remember that. And another thing I learned about faith is that faith is holding on in the faith is holding on in the face of adversity. If adversity never comes, how do we know whether we can hold on? The beauty of it all is that God knows and has always known the measure of faith that we possess. And when God was showing me that, and he was giving me that in my spirit and showing me how to trust him, he led me to Genesis 21, the story of Hagar. And I've read the story of Hagar several times, but until I was going through this storm, I noticed a couple of things, you know, in Hagar's story. And I'm just going to read to you Genesis 21, verses 16 through 15. And it says, Then she went and sat down across from him at the distance of a bow shot. For she said to herself, Let me not see the death of the boy. So she sat opposite him and lifted her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. Then the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said to her, What ails you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad and hold him with your hand, for I will make him a great nation. Now, in reading Hagar's story again, because, you know, sometimes when God leads you to something in the Bible and you've already read it, you're like, okay, I know that. Okay, what next? You know, but when God led me to that, he showed me three things. The first thing was that Hagar separated from the promise to allow it to die. And, well, to her, it appeared to be dying. So at the first sign of trouble, the enemy will immediately tell us that God is a liar and that what he said can't be true. So our first thought is to give up and let go, because God had promised Hagar that he was going to take care of her and her child. So when things got tough, the first thing Hagar wanted to do was, okay, I'm going to put it over to the side and let it die because I don't want to see it. You know, so Hagar separated from the promise to let it go. You know, and then the second thing that God showed me was that Hagar wept, but God heard the voice of the lad. Hagar was crying, but God heard the voice of the baby. And in thinking of that, God said, replace the lad with whatever promise I made you. Whatever promise God has made to you in this season, replace that with the lad, and then reread that verse. You know, because sometimes in our frustration, during our pity party, the gift God gave us cries out to him in fear of dying. So that thing that's on the inside of you, you know, that you're having this pity party about, that you've thrown into the corner, that you said it can't happen right now because times are tough, it's crying out to God. You know, so if we give up or allow the gift to die, then that means that God cannot fulfill the promise. And so in the promise, we have to remember, and I say this all the time, the promise is in the gift. It's not in you. It's not about you. It's about the gift. You know, and we have to stop making everything about us. God promised to make the gift great. He promised to make your business great. He promised to make your family great. He promised to make your latter days great. And the gift will make room for you. And the gift will bring you into the presence of great men. So you can't ever allow anything to make you forget what God has said concerning you. And the third thing that God spoke was that God spoke to her. And the first thing that he said to Hagar was, do not fear. Then he advised her to pick up the gift, or pick up the lad, and he reminded her of his promise. And so we have to remember that we should never allow fear to make us neglect God's gift. Don't allow fear of the unknown to stop you from being obedient. Lack comes through disobedience. As long as we are obedient to God's command, he is obligated to provide and take care of us. Your gift is required of you. God has returned for his talent. Are you doubling what you were given, or did you bury it? And the third lesson that I learned about faith is that faith waits for God. And if you plan your own tomorrow, you eliminate the need for God to order your steps, and therefore cannot be surprised when your miracle is a no-show. I remember God showed me that I was halting his hand, and his word says that he is a provider, but we must allow him to do so. So how was I halting his hand? It was because I was planning my own tomorrow and not living in the moment, and I did that by, if I had $20 in the bank, because at that time I was living off unemployment, and unemployment was $247 a week. No, $275 a week, $247 after taxes. And so I would get the unemployment check and I would save me $20 so that I could use it to put gas in the car. So I would say I can't go anywhere, because I need this $20 to put gas in the car in case somebody called me for an interview. So I had allowed the lack of money to stop me from enjoying life. And the reason that I said stop me from enjoying life, because at that time, even though I was unemployed, even though I was home most times, God had really instructed me to indulge in self-care of myself. So he had me to get up. I was getting up every day, reading the word, praying, going to the gym, working out. He had even made a way to where one of my friends, because I was going to the gym with her and she wanted me to go with her, she was paying my gym membership. So I would go with her. So I was getting up, going to the gym every day. So when I decided to start penny pinching, and saying that if I only had $20 left, I can't go anywhere, I would stop going to the gym. And I would stop doing what I knew that God had told me to do, and really, God does not want us to live in bondage like that, and I had stopped heeding to God's instructions, and I made it a source. I made money a source of my own happiness, and the word says that we have not because we ask not, and we can't ask for something from God and then figure our own way of how we're going to get it. If you want God to be your provider, you must allow him to provide. So think of it this way. If you give your child $10 and he immediately goes to the store and spend it all, but the next day he come and tell you he need lunch money, while you may question, what did you do with that $10 I gave you yesterday? You're still going to turn around and give him $10 for lunch. Why? Because you're not going to let your child starve, right? So this is the type of faith that we must have in God. No, I'm not saying that we should be foolish and run around and spend all of our money, because the Bible does tell us that we should be a good steward over what the Lord has given us. However, we still must take no thought for tomorrow and live each day for today. Because we have to remember that no matter what's going on around us, no matter how devastating things may appear to be, we still have to remember that God has a plan and He has a process for us, and we have to stick to that process, and we have to stick to that plan, because there is no plan B with God. Why settle for less when God, the Alpha and Omega, He who knows the beginning and the end, has already promised you the best? Just because it is hard, just because the bank account is low, just because the bills are behind, just because no one is calling, just because you have no help, or just because it appears the world is crumbling around you, does not mean you are to abort the plan. And I want to leave you with these words. Don't give up on your dream because the journey is not as you imagine. Don't give up on your dream because others don't understand or support you. Don't give up on your dream because of what today looks like. You may feel that you are not making progress, but God is progressing you inside out. Your dream will be worth the sacrifice. You can't out-strategize God, so stop trying. And stop trying to figure God out. In this season, embrace the pause that God has given you. Whatever that pause may be, embrace it and allow Him to be God in your life. He's not forgotten. He has not gone a blind eye. As I said earlier, this caught us by surprise, but God is not surprised. He is not sitting in heaven and saying, oops, I didn't know that was going to happen. Oop, let me recalculate. God is not a GPS system. You do not take a wrong turn. The GPS system says recalculating. God does not recalculate. He already knows what is going on and how it's going to affect you. And more importantly, He knows how He's going to bring you out. So, yes, live in the moment. Yes, be prayerful. Yes, be cautious of what's going on in the world, but still remember that God is in control. Do whatever you have to do to protect your peace, even if that means logging off social media, even if that means not watching the news each and every day. I don't watch the news each and every day. I refuse to. I watch the news one time a day, 30 minutes max. I see what's going on in my city and I cut it off and I put it right back on HGTV or something, because you have to protect your peace. I'm inundated with emails from the job, inundated with emails from other businesses sending me emails each and every day, people's opinion on social media, people's opinion that your friends and your family that are calling you. It's too much. And it's okay to pull away. Cut that stuff off. Cut the phone off, the TV off, your friends off if you have to, and take a moment and breathe and allow God to pour into you. Because any time that you spend in God's presence will not return to Him void. That's all the time that we have on today for Pursuit of Purpose. I hope you have enjoyed this moment. Today I came to you from my fourth book entitled Finding Faith. If you're interested in purchasing that book, please visit my website at www.indianatogo.com. Again, that's www.indianatogo.com. In addition to purchasing my books, you can also check out my services. And also shop the Indie Right store, where I have several books, journals, t-shirts, mugs, some posters and things like that to help you become bold and powerful in your faith and pursue that which God called you to do. As always, I want to hear from you. So you have any questions or concerns, please send me an email at pursuitofpurpose2019@gmail.com. Again, that's pursuitofpurpose2019@gmail.com. And as I always say, please always remember that there is purpose in your pain.